I'm Beth Tisdall of Cable Creek Farm in Post Falls, and we started as a vegetable CSA for 2 years back in 2011, and then we operated a micro dairy and kind of growing towards a creamery, small scale creamery from, 2013 to 2017-ish. So we have Dutch belted cows, which are a heritage breed. They're a dual purpose cow, and they're related to the belted Galloway, but the Dutch belted and the belted Galloway originated with the same breed, and then the belted Galloway were bred more for beef and the Dutch belted were bred more for dairy. And so over time they've become more of a dairy breed, but they're large so they can be dual purpose. So we started with Jerseys because they were more available around here, and being a novice cow person, I just didn't have the skill to keep them alive. They seem to have a lot of health problems, partially in hindsight due to the cows we were buying, because a lot of them were rejects from other dairies. But Jerseys in general are just kind of fragile, and I just found that with my skill level I needed something that was a little more durable. So we switched to Dutch belted. They're just a hardier breed and graze really well, good efficiency, and very sweet cows, although I think most cows can be sweet.
But you made a difficult decision recently to stop milking, is that right?
We did, yeah. Went through kind of a life event that changed us, and decided that we needed to get out of dairying, at least temporarily, if not longer, and kind of go in a different direction. So we still have our girls, I love them, and we are still breeding them. We're part of the breeding up program for Dutch belted, and then we raise some of them for beef every year, not the ones that we're breeding up, but the first calves from every heifer we breed to Angus, so they're 50% Angus, and we sell those for beef. So they are strictly grass-fed. We do feed oat hay, so there are oats in the oat hay, so I think from a technical standpoint they would not qualify as grass-fed, but we don't feed them any grain intentionally. So other than what's in the hay, they get a lot of alfalfa, grazing on pasture. I think we usually harvest around 20 months. They might be ready slightly earlier than that. A lot of it's just the availability of the butcher that time of year. So we usually end up somewhere between 18 and 20 months, and I'm not as tight with that time frame as I probably should be.
And when you were milking, what was the volume you were experiencing milk-wise, and versus perhaps when you started with Jerseys? Was there a dramatic difference? What kind of volumes were you experiencing?
So with the Jerseys, well, first of all, they were bred for dairy, so they were bred up, pretty extensively to be high producing for dairy. So we would get probably around 8 gallons a day, 6 to 8 gallons a day, with a small amount of grain. We did feed grain when we were milking. With the Dutch belted, I would say depending on their age, it's ranged from like 4 to 6 gallons. So it's been slightly less, but we've had fewer death losses and that sort of thing, so it's helped. It's just been better for us.
You're a noisy kitty.
Okay, something else to do, buddy. These two here were both born in like early April, I think, this last year, and then this one was June.
So these will be for beef?
Yes, this is a heifer here. She's half Angus, half Dutch belted, and so we'll breed her. This is Ida May's daughter. We call her Baby May. And then the other two are steers. Back in, what year was that? Probably 4 or 5 years ago, when we started the process of going grade A, the Dairy Bureau told us that we needed to have our cows undercover, basically in a manure containment system for the whole winter, 6 months out of the year when the ground doesn't absorb their manure. So for us, with our soil type, it required having them on a concrete floor. So we went about looking at different options for barns that would contain them during the winter. And found a guy in Vermont that kind of pioneered this style. His name is Guy Schwanier, and he built the first bedded pack barn. It's basically a clear span structure from Farm Tech, and then we built a concrete foundation and a concrete floor, and they spend their whole winter in here. And I just go through every day and spread more straw so it stays clean. Sometimes not every day. But as often as it needs it, which is usually every couple days. And it collects all their manure for the whole year, and then during the growing season we can spread it on pasture and improve our pastures that way.
By you adding the straw on it daily or semi-daily, you're basically adding a carbon to the nitrogen,
Right.
the nitrogen being the manure in the urine. Yes. So when you add carbon to nitrogen, you're getting a composting effect.
Yeah.
So essentially you're building a soil amendment that you're adding it back out to your pasture.
We are, yeah, and I mean it composts. It definitely composts. It doesn't compost ideally because it gets so much manure versus straw, and it's so compact. It needs more air to really compost well. But we've gone for 3 years at a time without cleaning this out. Just letting it compost down during the summer, rebedding it, putting the cows back on, and it loses a good half of its volume during the course of the summer through composting.
And then are you able to just bring in your tractor here with the front loader and scoop it all out?
We are. It's a process. I mean, it doesn't seem like that big of a barn, but it takes a couple of days worth of spreading manure to get all of it out.
What are the dimensions?
I believe it's 55 by 60. This last winter we decided to try and turn that side of the bedded pack to see if we could improve the rate of compost. And so some of it got piled up. Normally we don't pile it up, we just let it compost naturally over time. Just kind of experimenting with different techniques, but that's why there's mounds. We applied for NRCS funding, which is conservation funding, and it's available to protect waterways and natural resources. And so this was a priority for them because they wanted the cows on concrete during the winter because of our soil types here. So they offered funding, and for farmers that don't know, there's different levels of funding available through them for different projects. But for beginners and farmers and ranchers, if you've been ranching less than 10 years, they'll pay for a significantly higher portion than if you have been farming for longer. So for us, between doing a lot of the work ourselves and the NRCS funding, which we were considered beginning farmers and ranchers, covered the majority of the project.
So the roofing material, is that just a plastic or a canvas? What sort of material is that?
It's called a fabric tension barn, and I don't really know what the material is. It has a 20-year warranty through ClearSpan, and the cost to replace it is very minimal, like a couple $1,000s is all on a structure this size. So it seemed like a good investment. We love it because the reason we chose this barn was because it's natural light, natural air. Like if the cows have to be on concrete all winter, have it be as normal as possible for them. And they love it. They have freedom to move around. They're not tied to a stall. They will sleep in their family groups. Like the moms will sleep with the babies from their previous years. They play, they run. Honestly, I think a lot of times they're happier in here than they are outside, if the weather is bad especially. So for us, it was just about lifestyle, like wanting to be comfortable with how our cows were kept during the winter. And yeah, I think it's worked out from that perspective. There are design things we would do differently if we were to rebuild it. We were super concerned about ventilation, and so we had a lot of ventilation. And it's really overkill because if there is the slightest bit of wind, we get rain and snow in all the sides here. So if we were to build it again, we would put, on the back side, we would put sides, ends down at least halfway, and we probably would have kept these sidewalls on the concrete rather than raising them up. And we didn't really have a frame of reference for how much ammonia there would be from 10 or 12 cows, and so we kind of erred on the side of caution, having been in some dairy barns that were really nasty to be in. But this is more than we really needed.
I have someone nipping at me the whole time while we're doing this. She was nipping at my boots here a minute ago. Now she's nudging my elbow.
That's Gwen.
Who is that?
Gwen.
Gwen. Hi, Gwen. She always this friendly.
She is. Loves to be petted.
What breed of sheep is this?
So these are Babydoll Southdowns, and they're just pets. We have like a septic area out here where our drain field is, and it grows grass really well, and I don't really want heavy animals walking on it, so we just thought we'd put them out here and get to enjoy them in our view. We're trying to work on getting them to be friendlier. They're kind of standoffish.
Do you actually plan on using the wool?
In an ideal world, I would use the wool. I think it's a beautiful color. Whether or not I'll get around to it, they're mostly just pets. I don't have a lot of expectations for myself here.